Thank you all for tuning in to this brief Friday night edition of the People Show. Here with you on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. The reason why we are not on X is because I refuse to give money to someone who is antithetical to the progress in this country, and certainly who is antithetical to the progress of um, of Black people. So I refuse to support that. And anybody who is supporting this incoming group of people that we have a felon, a convicted felon, someone who's been found liable of sexual assault, who has been found guilty of defrauding the institutions and the state, and should have been convicted on felony federal accounts. That person will not get the respect from this program, period. This program will reflect on what we need to do and the priorities of what we need to do, and also to make sure that you understand what the truth is. And for those people who are so confused because of their own lack of information and because they have bought into misinformation and disinformation, we are going to do our very best to unclog your confusion. Because if you believe that this group of unqualified, unconscionable people are going to do anything that is going to be remotely reflective of improving the quality of life for the average American, or the average or the average Black person, you are confused. You have bought into the fear-mongering and the rage, and you bought it. And that's what they sold, because they know that that's what moved a lot of people. Not information, truth. Truth is not something that is sexy and popular. Most people gravitate to gossip, and they gravitate to garbage. They gravitate to it. They're entertained by it. And many of you have been captured by the garbage and the gossip that comes from the sewer of the mouth of Trump and his sycophants. And you are not going to be the beneficiary of anything that comes from this administration. Let me share with you what you are going to be a beneficiary of. You are going to be a beneficiary of what has taken place in the last 4 years under the Biden-Harris leadership and the Democratic Congress that passed some of the most transformational public policy that has been passed since Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal. The difference is that in these policies, there are going to be great benefits for Black people to participate in. And what you're going to hear over the next several years, because many of those policies are still going to be rolled out over the next 2 years, from the Inflation Reduction Act to the Chips and Science Act, to the infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Bill, the Social Security Safety Act. All of those are policies that have been proposed and disposed of by the Democratic presidency and the Democratic Congress. But you're not going to know that, or many are not going to know that, because you are going to buy into the fact that Trump is sitting in a position that he has no business sitting in, but he will have done nothing to cause what is being caused now. He will be not. He's inheriting another great economy, as he inherited a great economy from Barack Obama. When Barack Obama came into office, the country was losing 700,000 jobs a month. The Barack Obama administration, the Obama-Biden administration put forth policies that reversed that shed of 700,000 jobs a month to 74 straight months of economic growth and job creation. 74 straight months. Donald Trump inherited an economy with the lowest number and the lowest rate of unemployment, inflation, and then mismanaged it. Before COVID, mismanaged it, because the only thing of significance that he did while he was in office from 2016 to January 20th of 2021 was cause chaos. But the most significant thing that he did was gave a $6 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest people in this country. And so the last three Republican presidents has given more than $40 trillion in tax cuts, which has caused the $34 trillion debt that we have today, starting with Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan came into office, the top tier tax rate was 70%, 74%. The corporate tax rate was 57%. And if those had been left in place, we would have been able to fund free education, a public health system, and we wouldn't have the debt that we're saddled with today, and that our grandchildren, your children, are going to be saddled with for the rest of their lives. That's where we are today. That's why we have a $34 trillion debt, because that $34 trillion debt that we have is largely responsible because of $40 trillion in tax cuts that has been passed on by three Republican presidents. We are still saddled with that debt. That's where we are today. And for you people who are running around, in particular, Black people who are frustrated with the Democratic Party, and you're frustrated in many regards because you are ill-informed. There is no perfect party. There is never going to be a perfect party. And there is never going to be a perfect idea coming from any man or woman. So, that's what you're going to be faced with, but only the misinformed and those who have bought into the disinformation are going to look back and say, wow, Trump is doing a great job. We have low unemployment. Look at the jobs that are being created. It will have had nothing to do with Donald Trump's policies. The job creation that is continuously happening under this administration, 13 million jobs and counting, a great economy, which is the envy of the rest of the world, that you are going to say, or you are going to hear people say that Donald Trump is doing a great job. If he didn't bundle and try to disrupt, but what's going to happen is because he is so inept, he does not understand even how government works. He may know a little bit better, but he is such an incompetent, grossly unqualified, and ignorant that he will surely try to do things that are antithetical and that are illegal. Thank God that Congress did what it did to protect the national interests of the United States by making sure that he cannot go out and just blow up the agreements that have been worked on by presidents, both Republican and Democrats, to make sure that the national interest and the national security of the United States interest remains intact. So he won't be able to pull us out of NATO because he doesn't have that authority to do that. It has to be done by Congress, and it has to be 2/3 of the Senate in order to do that. So it's president proof. And in this case, it's idiot proof. So those of you who want to wrap your arms around that individual, it's unfortunate that you find that as appealing and you think that that is somehow going to be beneficial to the average person. It will not. It won't be beneficial to the average white person. It won't be beneficial to the average Hispanic person, Indian person, Muslim person, Black person, Christian, Jews, Hindus, whatever your background is. Nothing that comes out of this administration is going to be beneficial to the future of the average working person. It is very unfortunate, but it is also eye-opening to the level of ill-informed Americans and that people who just completely reject the truth. It's obvious that you watch things like Fox, and even in their own production, they acknowledge the fact that they have to make things up based on rage and based on fear. Otherwise, they would not have viewers. And that's basically what you have. Now, I'm not getting into any of the statistics about the voter results and all that sort of stuff, but we're certainly going to see when the weeks and the final analysis come as to how these voter suppression so-called voter ID laws that they got some of you all thinking that that is somehow protecting us when we've never had problems with voting in this country in terms of it being done properly and fairly, and that we have a pretty much free and fair elections in this country, and we have not had problems. Now, if you want, wrap your arms around Trump. I've seen people who are getting on saying that they can't wait until Mondays, like somehow that is going to transform the lives of Black people. Now, maybe they've been bought by that group, and they can operate in their own way to somehow believe that because they have promised them something. But I can promise you this, that whatever they think that was promised to them will not be coming. And again, we cannot measure progress based on a few people being purchased who may look like us, because that is what you're going to see, if at all. And so we're going to sit and we're going to observe all of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to share with you what the truths are. It might not be sexy and it might not be salacious. We're not going to be talking about men and women relationships and how to find a husband or how to find a wife. We're not going to be talking about that. I'm not going to be talking about who got divorced or who cheated on. That's not what we do here. And that's not what is going to benefit us. For people to be so interested in the shortcomings and the foibles and failures in other people's lives. We're not going to be talking about that. What we're going to be talking about are the things that matter. And we're going to be talking about the things that we need to do in order to move our communities forward. There are people who send all kinds of negative texts, people who send me negative stuff, that they're always critical, criticizing, and you can see their biases because all their critiques are of the Democratic Party. And they tend to say nothing of the absolute disgust that we have that is going to be sitting in the Oval Office. So they basically show just and reveal where their character is. And I am not moving based on what is popular and what is based on who is going to get someone the most views. I'm going to put out the information that is the truth. And I'm going to work along with other people who are doing this work, providing you with information that you can use so that you can be aware and understand what is happening. And for us to do what we need to do in order to fortify and provide for our communities, to make sure that our communities are going to benefit. Now, let me spend the next few minutes talking about that. There were 4 major pieces of legislation that was passed by the Biden-Harris administration that is going to deliver billions of dollars to the state of Illinois, from the Inflation Reduction Act, to the Chips and Science Act, to the Infrastructure Bill, and the American Rescue Act. All of those policies are delivering $46.5 billion for developments in industry and economic growth and education to the state of Illinois. And you and I have to organize ourselves together so that we make sure that the Democratic Party here, the governor, the mayor, the legislators, the city council people, the village trustees in our villages, whether it be in Markham, Harvey, Country Club Hills, Hazel Crest, South Holland, Flossmoor, Mattison, Olympia Fields, Richton Park, wherever it is that we live, we must make sure that that's what we're focusing on, because those bills, those dollars are going to be rolling out over the next 4 years while Trump and his sycophants are doing what they're doing. These dollars are going to be rolling out, and we need to make sure that our communities are invested in. The only way that we will be able to make sure that our communities get invested in is that we have to make sure that we are amassed and that we are organized so that when we speak, that they have to respond. And we need to be in front of them. We cannot allow for them to get in front of us as we have done in the past. And then when policies and decisions are made, we are out in the street protesting a policy that has already been decided. We need to be in front so that we craft what the policies are to make sure that those policies are equitably distributed to include our communities. That is why it is imperative for us to become an independent Black voting bloc. That does not mean that we are not working with the Democratic Party. What it means is we're going to make the Democratic Party work better. We're going to make the Democratic Party do what it is supposed to do in terms of including our communities. That is what you and I must do. We have got to get focused. We have to be strategic, and we have to be intentional and deliberate about what it is that we need to do. Whatever your interest is, we need to get together and you focused on that. What is your interest? But we collectively support what that interest is, from education to economics. That's why we need to have a whole bunch of people involved. There are people who are focused on education. There are some people who are focused on economics. There are people who are focused on health. There are people who are focused on housing. And you've been doing that work. Continue to do that work. Let's do it as a block so that whoever is leading us in that area of work, 10 by 10 to win, is the infrastructure which supports the work that you are leading us in. Whatever the work that you're doing, whatever your organization is, you continue to have your organization. The block of 10 by 10 to win is all of us together across the landscape of our communities. Wherever we live in Chicago, wherever we live in the suburbs, we have a population in the suburbs of Forest Park. We have a population of people in Maywood. We have a population of people in Broadview to the west. We have people out in the southern suburbs, 17 black mayors in the south suburbs, which tells you that we have 17 predominantly black communities. We have to be protective. We have to be supportive of our communities everywhere that we are. That is why 10 by 10 to win is so important for us to establish our own independent block, that we institutionalize it so that it is in place, so that it continues. That when my time has passed, somebody else will be elected to the seat of the chair to be able to lead the block. Now, the chair does not make unilateral decisions. The chair gives the decision, or is given the decisions by the body, which is the block. So we collectively make decisions, and the chair carries those decisions the same way that a union president does. The president does not set the agenda. The body sets the agenda, and the president is the advocate for that agenda. We have to put together our own union of black voices so that we have a voice that is significant, that is strong, and that we have the power to be able to determine offices, to be able to dictate policy, to be able to demand resources. And if those resources are not met, then we have the power to recruit, and we have the power to replace. Period. That's what we must do. And so I wanted to come on for just a few minutes to remind us to not to fall into despair, because despair is not an option. Not to be depressed, not to be derailed because things didn't turn out the way that we had hoped that they would turn out. But we still have a responsibility, and we have work to do, and we have a way to accomplish those, because there are going to be great things coming that are still coming. And the work that Joe Biden did, along with Kamala Harris and the Democratic Congress, great opportunities are going to be moving in our direction. And we need to make sure that we are at the forefront of any of those decisions. And if we are not there in mass numbers, then we are not there. Somebody else is making decisions for us, and we are going to get rolled over and passed over as we have in the past. If we continue to do things the way that we have been doing things, as being fractionized and disconnected, we are going to have the same problems. Now, I'm asking you to make sure that you text. When you see this, text 10x10 to 855-909-1385 and get into the text alert so that you can get the notices of upcoming meetings and events. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be out in Flossmoor. I got about a minute left. We're going to be out in Flossmoor. We're going to be meeting at 1056 Sterling Avenue at the shops on Sterling tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We are canvassing for Joni Bradley Scott, who is running for mayor out in the village of Flossmoor. The village of Flossmoor is 63% black, and it has a 100% white administration. And the voices of the black community out there are just disrespected, and that's got to change. So we are supporting the candidacy of the mayor and trustees and board candidates that are running, and we're going to be doing canvassing. So if you will meet us out there at 11 o'clock, 1056 Sterling Avenue, the shop's on Sterling at 11 o'clock tomorrow, and we will be supporting the candidacy of Joni Bradley Scott out in Flossmoor. We did it last weekend. We're going to do it again this weekend. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. I just wanted to come on for a few minutes. And when you do see this, please share this. And we have to get ourselves together. We have to get ourselves together. We can't do anything about the people who want to move in these ways of being misinformed. But those of us who know that we have to do better, and we will be able to demonstrate on behalf of those people who are confused and misguided. All right. Thank you all very much for tuning in tonight. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow in Flossmoor.